Hello there. My socks have got a little bit of grip on them today. That slide I don't feel was as smooth as usual. Well, you know what time it is. It is time for our nearly quarterly scour of the internet to see what is the state of coffee. It feels like every season there is a new batch of things that people are doing to coffee that look interesting, but it's always kind of a question of, in practice, is that a good thing or just like an internet thing? Some might call these trends, some might call these hacks, but whatever have you, I have scoured 4 today for us to try and to kind of decide whether these are just internet hacks or these hacks that can be taken into the real world. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so our first hack actually comes from TikTok, but I have seen this everywhere. This has reached Reels quite a bit faster than I think trends usually do. You may have heard of cereal milk lattes, but have you heard of cereal lattes? Let's take a peek. Okay, so we have our bowl of cereal. We're pulling espresso over top and then adding our milk and then consuming the, it says girl dinner here. I'm gonna call it the all-encompassing breakfast in one go. I mean, pretty standard breakfast, a latte and a bowl of cereal. If you combine them, does it make it more efficient? The answer is probably yes, but does it make it a better experience? I think we should find out. What's up?
Are you putting a shot of espresso in the cereal bowl?
Yeah. Wait, Graham, do you have anything to say about this?
No, I always come out here and make sure that you did that at all costs.
What was the alternative?
There was none.
Yes, my husband's over here asking what the heck I'm doing and just confirming that I'm not doing something apparently worse than putting a shot in a cereal bowl. Now, I imagine you will have varying success on this based on what type of cereal you use. I think something kind of spiced would be nice in this. I think something chocolatey would also be very nice. I picked Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I feel like this is a classic. This is a pretty accessible cereal. I feel like these flavors will go nice with some coffee. Also, we have a lot of equipment and things going on today because I do need an espresso machine in shot. Now, I am not much of a cereal in the morning person, but there's nothing wrong with Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Now, the way people have been going at this is cereal, then espresso, then milk. Let's do that. I just had like the most coffee person thought in existence of like, what is my cereal to milk ratio? I don't think it matters. That feels like a serving. If anyone's curious, I do have my like Ranchillo and everything still in service, but I usually use the Breville for like videos and it's a bit more portable to get over to this side of the kitchen. Okay, shot of espresso over cereal. All right, that most certainly is a bowl of cereal with an espresso shot. Now, we all know dairy hurts me, so have some oat milk. This is what I would usually use with breakfast anyways. Look, as far as things being like Instagrammable, this most certainly is. This feels like a like a 2014 like Tumblr era breakfast. Because this is coffee, I have a cupping spoon to enjoy our cereal with. We'll just incorporate, saturate, and agitate our cereal bowl. Okay, let's consume. You know what, I was skeptical about this one. Not from the fact that I thought it was gonna be bad. I don't think there was a world where this was gonna be like an awful experience, but I was like, there's no way that these two things together are like greater than the sum of their parts. But you know what? I kinda like this. Gonna be completely honest here. I think the cereal is a major factor. I think the kind of light sweetness and also those kind of spiced cinnamon bits in this particular cereal go very well with the coffee. I imagine if you did this with Fruit Loops, you might have slightly different results, but overall, this is a very tasty combination. It's almost like I have to stop myself from consuming all this, not only because I have already had breakfast and coffee, and the fact that if I finish this, I will have consumed another full coffee. But overall, this is a good hack. This is an efficient, very tasty option. So I would rate this worthy of existing outside of the internet. I need to stop. We have like 3 more things to do. So I'm gonna go move our trusty Breville out of the way. Let's get our next piece of equipment in place. I'll see you very soon for hack number 2. I want to give a huge thank you to Lark for sponsoring today's video. We brew a lot of coffee on this channel, and it only makes sense to take care of your water with the same amount of care that you do your coffee. I would argue that on the overall importance scale, water might rank a touch higher for your well-being and hydration. Lark is set on helping you have the best water possible at home at all times. The Lark pitcher uses a two-step filtration and purification process using a long-lasting plant-based filter. It removes lead, chlorine, and PFAs, all things that you don't necessarily want in your coffee brewing water or your drinking water. It also uses PureViz technology that works to prevent any biocontaminant once it's stored in the fridge. It's intuitive to use, boasts a sleek design in 2 colors, and it also has an app that you can connect to your pitcher, which helps you track your household's water consumption, and it warns you when it's time to change that filter, an especially helpful feature that I've needed more than once. The Lark pitcher can filter 60 gallons of water, which means it lasts 50% longer than traditional filters, and at a 1.9 liter capacity, makes it a great size for your fridge and your daily drinking habits. Water is important, not just for your coffee, but for you. Let the Lark pitcher take control and keep you happy, healthy, and hydrated all year long. Okay, welcome back for hack number 2. You'll notice that I have a blender besides me. I don't think anything good ever happens when I have a blender, but let's see. So for hack number 2, we have butter and coffee. You might have seen this before. This has been making its rounds for what feels like going on like 10 years. This is kind of the concept of bulletproof coffee. This is largely adopted kind of in the keto diet is where you primarily see it, but a lot of people swear by adding butter in their coffee rather than something like cream. Now for this particular video, we're not just adding the butter into our hot coffee and then just melting it down. We are actually putting it into a blender and then fully blending and emulsifying everything together, which I think is probably for the best. I think that's probably a better way to do it if you're gonna be adding butter. The primary video that I found recently talking about this talks about how adding butter is basically the same thing as adding cream, and I understand the sentiment. They're definitely not a one-to-one addition. These are 2 very different ingredients. However, you're adding a fat to coffee to kind of mellow out, to kind of sweeten a bit, to kind of give it a heartier mouthfeel to it. The principle's kind of the same. Now, we don't really have measurements for this. However, looking at what this person has done, it looks like we have about a cup of coffee, 8 ounces, roughly 250 mils. I think those are most of the conversions. And it looks like he's taking off like a tablespoon of butter. Like that was a pretty hefty chunk. Who am I to judge? Let's make some butter coffee. And we are doing this hack first because I will note the last hack we are doing today also involves a blender. And I think if we did that one first, we might not even have a blender to do this one with. You'll see very soon. So, coffee. Let's go for the butter. I will note, if you are doing this, I highly recommend you use unsalted butter rather than salted. I mean, do what you please, but I think there is a more universally accepted result to be had with the unsalted version. Just gonna kind of grab a chunk like he did, about a tablespoon, and then we blend. What do I want to classify this as? I suppose I could just do high. This isn't a smoothie. It's not a frozen drink. I don't think it's a dip. We'll just do this manually. Ooh, buttery smells are coming from the top of this. That seems good and emulsified. Let's drink. Now, because we have fully and thoroughly both aerated and emulsified this together, we do have a nice bit of froth sitting on the top. This is most certainly a much creamier coffee than what we initially put in. Oh, we'll just pour it all out. Butter coffee. Let's try. You can just, you can smell the butter wafting off this. I have thoughts. The tactile is good, like the weight of the drink. However, very similar to the oleato olive oil addition into coffee we did a couple weeks ago, there's this kind of coating buttery, just like, it's just everywhere. Like I feel like my lips are fully coated. The inside of my mouth just kind of feels slick and buttery. It definitely rounds off some of the harsher flavors within coffee. So some of that bitterness and acidity has been kind of taken from sharp corners to something a bit softer. It doesn't add a ton of butter flavor. It really just sits in how it feels in the mouth, which isn't, the more I'm thinking about it, my most favorite thing. I think I can guarantee that I prefer the addition of cream into coffee far more than I do butter. However, I cannot deny that this is a very unique drinking experience, and I can understand why people like this. There's an argument to be made for this for sure. So personally, I would rate this a coffee hack that doesn't necessarily need to be beyond the internet. I think this is a good internet video, less so in practice. However, I do get why other people like it. So we're kind of in the middle here. If you like butter in your coffee, let me know. Also, let me know how you like to prepare it. The adding it to a blender is new to me. I usually see people kind of just add, stir, and enjoy. So if you have a different technique, I would like to try that. I think I can pretty safely say that I do prefer this over simply melting a pat of butter in your hot coffee. It's interesting. A lot of people have asked me to do this. I've held back on butter coffee for a very long time, and so this was an interesting thing to try. Regardless, we have 2 more hacks. We're only halfway done. Let's continue. All right, our third hack definitely leans on the more aesthetics-driven side of coffee. More on the drink creation rather than the actual brewing. So let's take a peek. Now, I've seen this all over, but this is one of the earlier renditions that I saw. So if this is not the very originator of this kind of coffee decoration trend, let me know, but this is the one that I have seen the most often. Pretty simple. We are using a syrup of some type. We are using a milk frother, and we're using that to decorate the sides of our cup before adding the rest of our coffee ingredients. In this case, milk and then espresso of some type. Now, personally, I think this looks very interesting. This is definitely just like aesthetics, but I am curious if the aesthetics hold up as you add everything. I've seen some versions of this that work very well, as in you can still see those defined lines and kind of decorative patterns on the side of the cup. And I've also seen some that don't work at all and everything just kind of mushes and blends together. So is it Instagrammable or does it work in real life? Let's try it. We are going to be as accurate as possible, so clear glass. We're going with chocolate today. I've seen people do caramel, but I think chocolate is going to give us the best chance for success. A good amount that we can both grab from and then also maintain in the bottom of our drink. We'll say one of the things I think we're gonna stumble upon, even just thinking about this, is the fact that the minute you stir this drink together to kind of get at that chocolate in the bottom, you're gonna lose all the decoration, I'm assuming. Milk frother. Dip in, we grab some. And then I've seen some people do these kind of fun diagonal patterns. I think for my starting, we're just gonna do circles around the edge. Just straight up lift this. I'm like nervous. Okay, I do it again is the question. I'm trying not to be too tickled about this, but I am a little bit tickled. Okay, part of me wants to try some diagonal shapes here. Let's give this a go. Get some angle in here. Nice little cross on the front there. All right, let's add the rest of our ingredients. Already I can see our chocolate starting to kind of drip down the sides. I think the least destructive way to do this is going ice first and then milk and then espresso. Okay, well, I don't know how I feel about this. We are certainly getting a lot of drippage in our lines here. The process of doing this was quite enjoyable. The tricky part comes now though, as I'm ready to consume this, because all of our syrup is still trapped at the bottom. And then we have all the syrup sitting on the sides and our espresso is just kind of in there without being stirred. So either one would have to assemble the entirety of their drink, syrup, milk, espresso, all in a separate thing and then pour it in, or we're gonna have to stir this up. So let's have a stir. Let's be as gentle as possible. Just kind of at the bottom, whisking very lightly. We've lost some pretty points, but a taste. I mean, this is a mocha. I don't think the taste was ever gonna be bad. No, I think this is definitely an Instagram and like internet coffee hack. I don't think this has much utility outside of that, but it's a very clever way to add some pizzazz in your internet videos. So I would rate this internet only, but I understand it. Okay. Our last one is the one I am for sure most nervous about. I think this one is one that actually might spell harm for my blender, but we'll see what happens. We're making coffee milk. Now I will note a special shout out to the person who has been DMing me on Instagram about this video specifically. They had so much excitement about this, and when I saw it, I had excitement about it too, but equal parts nervousness. So let's watch the video. This comes from a fellow coffee content creator on Instagram. Tails.coffee is the original uploader of this. Okay, so the principle is pretty similar to how one would do a nut milk. We are blending whole coffee beans and water together until they are thoroughly just brewed, I suppose, and then straining that mixture through a cheesecloth and through a sieve, and then you have whatever is left, which is apparently some sort of like almost milky-like beverage. I'm intrigued. You know, I I barely dare to admit this, but I've experienced with coffee and blenders before. This is a total side tangent here, but the very, very first time I ever bought a bag of coffee, I had never brewed coffee before. I was like barely 18 and working at a summer camp. So I took my lovely bag of specialty whole bean coffee with me, not realizing that when you buy whole bean coffee, one also has to have a way to grind it. So I'm at camp, it is 5:30 in the morning and I have no grinder, but I do have a blender. And so little old me puts the whole bean coffee into the blender and then blends it to a somewhat acceptable grind size, and then brewed my coffee with that. It wasn't great, but considering what I had access to, I think I was pretty scrappy and resourceful. But that being said, we might chip the blades. There's a lot of things that can happen in here, so be forewarned, maybe don't try this one on your own if this doesn't go well. Now in this video, the creator says they do a 1:4 ratio, which looks like 1:4 ratio of coffee to water. So we're gonna go with that as our starting point. All right, let's just get started. It's funny, you know, because the initial thought I always have when like dosing out coffee for like anything, it's like, all right, like what grind size do I need? And that is certainly not something I have to think about here. To make our 1:4 ratio easier, I'm gonna go in with 100 grams of coffee, which means 400 grams of water. Okay. It feels wrong, but we'll try it. This is one of those scenarios where I feel like I might need, I might need safety goggles or something. All right, if we need to add more water, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's go on medium. Let's start. Maybe high. This is such a funny experiment. I'm gonna go for a little longer. It does look like we are starting to get that kind of coffee milk color going on in here, but I'm not putting this back in after I dump it out. So I just wanna make sure we are as blended, as brewed as possible. Oh, the things we do on this channel. Okay, I think everything looks thoroughly ground and incorporated. I need to go find my cheesecloth. All right, I've arranged everything, so hopefully you'll be able to see down here. This looks delicious. Just go kind of slow here. Let everything drain out. It looks deceptively like we did like cookies and cream or like blended Oreos or something. With this brewing method, Alika Lifty and Lance Hedrick, just eat your heart out. Next year, you'll find me doing Brewer's Cup using a blender on stage. It feels quite on brand. All right, a light squeeze to get any remaining liquid. Now, all things considered, we do have a pretty smooth liquid here. As I kind of slosh it around, I can see there's maybe a little bit of particulate in here, but nothing major. Seems to have worked fairly well, all things considered. Suppose the next thing is to drink it though. We'll be fancy today. It smells very green, I can say. Not at all, I think, what you would expect. I'm very curious what this is gonna taste like. Very vegetal. I think a bit under extracted, perhaps. Oh, it's a little grainy. Definitely a little bit chewy. The grain though is like, it's not French press like grain. It's like if you went to the beach and you got like a little, like if a little sand was like blowing across the beach and then a bit of that happened to fall into your lemonade or something. Like it's not a lot, but what is there is present. The weight of it is pretty heavy, of course, because we have a good amount of fines and like kind of grain in here. There's a lot of, I don't even want to call them dissolved solids. There's just some solids. The flavor is coffee-like. It really is, for as dark and as milky as this all got, there is not a ton of coffee flavor in it, but certainly a fascinating experiment. This could definitely use kind of a second filter through like a coffee filter, something a bit finer than cheesecloth. Don't know if I would quantify it as milk, but purely out of kind of how ridiculous this method of brewing is, I kind of love it. I definitely respect it, but I think I love it a little bit. I think this is definitely an internet coffee hack. I don't think this has too much utility yet in the real world, but if someone would like to dive into the I suppose, science of making this a viable brewing method, I would be more than delighted. And to the creator who did this first, thank you for finding a new way to brew coffee. So, these were our coffee hacks today. If you have any more that you have seen that you would like me to try, always be free to either DM me or let me know in the comment sections, because when these types of videos come around, I do go back and look to see if there are any future recommendations. This was an experience. I hope you all enjoyed it. I will see you next time. And I will go sip on a little bit more of this, but I don't think too much more. In the meantime, my name is Morgan. You can find me here on YouTube once a week, plus YouTube Shorts. Additionally, you can find me on TikTok or Instagram every single day. Also, if you'd like to find more actual coffee recipes and fun drink recipes, you can go to morgandrinkscoffee.com, where I do log all of my recipes for fun drink builds that I do. So have fun with that, and I'll see you all soon. Bye, everyone. I want to give a huge thank you to Lark for sponsoring today's video. We brew a lot of coffee on this channel, and it only makes sense to take care of your water with the same amount of care that you do your coffee. I would argue that on the overall importance scale, water might rank a touch higher for your well-being and hydration. Lark is set on helping you have the best water possible at home at all times. The Lark pitcher uses a two-step filtration and purification process using a long-lasting plant-based filter. It removes lead, chlorine, and PFAs, all things that you don't necessarily want in your coffee brewing water or your drinking water. It also uses PureViz technology that works to prevent any biocontaminant once it's stored in the fridge. It's intuitive to use, boasts a sleek design in 2 colors, and it also has an app that you can connect to your pitcher, which helps you track your household's water consumption, and it warns you when it's time to change that filter, an especially helpful feature that I've needed more than once. The Lark pitcher can filter 60 gallons of water, which means it lasts 50% longer than traditional filters, and at a 1.9 liter capacity, makes it a great size for your fridge and your daily drinking habits. Water is important, not just for your coffee, but for you. Let the Lark pitcher take control and keep you happy, healthy, and hydrated all year long.